Good afternoon, York Depot. It is Tuesday afternoon, so that means I am late. I like to get these out on Mondays, but I did not get a chance to yesterday, so I apologize for that. I hope you are having a great day. It is beautiful outside. So just a reminder that please feel free to crack the windows while you're driving. Keep them open if the students are able. Not only is it beautiful day to do that, but also helps prevent the spread of COVID-19. So the last two official trainings that we did, the first one, part one, was about connection and how connection is like that string that's connected to you and the other students in the van, and that your job every day is to first of all establish the connection and then invest and make that string grow into a rope, so that when you have to make a withdrawal, that connection's strong enough for you to do that. The part two was about what happens when that connection is broken, meaning the student violates a boundary, whether it's safety, respect, anything like that. And step one was forgiveness, and that is all an entirely internal process. So nothing that we talked about last week was external. It was all about forgiving from your heart, so that you can reconnect and reestablish those boundaries. Because when a student violates those boundaries, we can't just stop at this forgiveness portion. We need to ensure safety, which is our number one priority. So this is training number 3 about reestablishing boundaries after there's an incident. So firstly, the warm welcome, the official Faithful Transportation. Hi, Johnny. I'm so glad to see you today. I'm so glad you're here today is essential. So you've already forgiven the student from your heart, but if you need to fake this step, that is completely okay. You might have to fake it till you make it to actually feel glad to see the student. That's okay. But when you greet them positively after an incident, you are communicating that you are immovable, and that is way more powerful than punishing or holding a grudge. It may seem or feel like weakness, but it actually isn't. When you warmly reconnect with the student, you're saying to them that even their worst hasn't rattled you. This is very, very powerful for the student to experience. Secondly, before you even get to that student's house, know what these new boundaries are. So let's say, for example, you have a student who was throwing things in the van, and it was unsafe, and it escalated into a disrespectful incident. The boundaries that you need to reestablish with that student need to take into account the new behavior, and they need to be developed with Andy and possibly the student's teaching team so that they can be enforced. Remember from last week's teaching, you are not the punisher, and you're never the punisher. And so you as the driver, you need to know where the boundaries are and where you're going to get backup from management at Faithful Transportation and the school district, and where you're not going to get backup from management and the school district. So these things need to be discussed in advance. And so let's say our scenario, you had a student that was throwing things and it escalated. So you pull up that next day, you give them that warm welcome, and the new boundary is, okay, the student hands the backpack to the driver keeps it in the front passenger seat. What happens if that student does not do that? Do you deny transportation? Do you allow them on but write up the student? Those are the types of consequences that you need to know in advance so that you can properly reestablish those boundaries and know that you are acting in accordance and under the authority of Faithful Transportation, but more importantly, the school district that's going to ultimately enforce those boundaries. Because When you reestablish those boundaries, you should be able to articulate and communicate the consequences to those students. I want to emphasize with this one, you are not a lone ranger. You're out there on your own, but you are not a lone ranger. And so we want to be there for you. So thirdly, communicate the new boundaries right away and in clear language. Hi, Johnny. I'm so glad you're here today. Come on in and sit down. And the student gets down and buckles up. Johnny, we had a really bad ride home on Friday. You know that you can't throw things in the van. And because of this, your teachers and I decided that you need to hand your backpack to me, and I'll keep it next to me while we're in the van. We've worked on a way so that you can earn it back because I know that you really like your iPad. Oh, thanks for giving me your backpack. What radio station do you want to listen to this morning? So you need to plan that conversation in advance. It may not go as smoothly as it just went in this little scenario, but you make sure that you're communicating that, number one, the student is welcome. Number two, right away, there are new boundaries and potentially new consequences. And also what it'll take to earn back what the student actually wants. If he wants the iPad, hey man, what kind of behavior is it going to take for him to re-earn the reward that he's seeking? And then, so what happens if this interaction does not go like I just play along with? If it does not go well, you've already established a plan with management and the school district so that the student can be held accountable. So you already know, best case scenario and worst case scenario, what's going to happen as you establish this new boundary. So in summary, when you are reestablishing that connection and boundaries after an incident, number one, give a warm welcome. This communicates strength. It doesn't communicate weakness. Two, develop the new boundaries in advance with Andy and the students' teachers, and know what the consequences are of the students violating them. You are not a lone ranger. Number three, communicate those new boundaries as soon as the student steps on the van, as warmly as possible. So if you follow these steps, I'm not going to promise you that it's going to ensure success, but I can promise you that it's going to set you up for success and increase the probability that you'll have a positive interaction with your students and that you'll love your job. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the warm, sunny weather. I know I will. Have a good one.